Hey, how's it going? My name's Eric. I'm with Painting Business Pro, and I'm going to be the one who's going to be helping you guys start or grow or expand your painting business, hopefully over the course of the next couple weeks, or the next couple months, or even the next couple years. I want to start just by telling you a little bit about myself and how I got started with the painting business. I've been in the painting business for 9 years now, and I started when I was 18, and I was actually working with a company, and over the course of 6 years, by the time I was 24, I generated $2.5 million of business with painting. Since then, in the last 3 years, I actually started my own company. I've also helped strangers and people I've never met around the country start or grow their painting businesses. So I've been doing this a whole lot. I know a ton about different systems, and that's what I'd like to really get into sharing with you guys. So I'm going to start by showing you just really how I have my business set up. So first of all, there's 3 parts to your business and 3 main systems that you're going to need to develop and that I'm going to be teaching you. And so the first one is marketing. And then we also have sales. So marketing is where we're generating clients, potential clients, so leads is what we'll call those. So marketing is all about generating leads, people who want estimates, people who are thinking about painting. Sales is the process of actually, once you've got the lead, contacting the customer all the way through the end of the sale, whether they decide to hire you or not. So I would say this is, one side of the business. And then once you have customers, the other system that you need to develop is a system for production. So that's going to be the other side of the business. So here's how my company's set up. Here I am at the top. This is me, Eric. Over here on sales and marketing, I have Ben. So Ben's been working with me for a couple years. And Ben is in charge of all sales and marketing. So he's my sales manager. Now Ben's job is he manages our sales reps. So he has 4 sales reps who work underneath him. So sales reps, their job is to do all the marketing and the sales. So what that means is we have a system for marketing. So when we hire a sales rep, we have a system that we're going to teach them so that they can constantly get a nice flow of leads that they can go out and do estimates for. And we have a really simple system to do that, and they actually will pay for and take care of both of these things. So Ben's only job is to manage these 4 sales reps, and they're the ones who actually generate all of our marketing and all of our sales. So they go out every week and they generate leads and they generate sales, and every week they come back and they meet Ben. And they turn in all of their jobs to Ben. So they hand in all the jobs that they've booked. Here's client Johnson, Smith, and all these jobs. Then what Ben does is he sets goals and makes a plan for them to hit their goals the next week. Then Ben takes those folders and those new clients, and he takes them and he does a meeting with Paul. He's my production manager. So Paul's job is once we book a client, Paul is the one who contacts the client. He helps them figure out their colors. He helps them deal with homeowners associations, answers any questions they have. But most importantly, he manages all the scheduling. And so once a client has their house is completely ready to go, Paul goes and he meets with one of his 6 subcontractors. So down here we have subcontractors. So these are people who own painting businesses themselves, but they're usually not people who like to do marketing and sales. They like to just do production. And so they're usually willing to do this for a lower price than we sell the job at. And so Paul has hired and manages all these subcontractors and deals with the scheduling. So what I do on a week-to-week basis is I meet with Ben on Monday to help him support his sales reps. And then I meet with Paul on Monday to make sure he's managing everything with the schedule. So that's about an hour and a half meeting with each of them. And then they take care of everything else. So Paul actually deposits all of the checks when we finish jobs. He puts them right in my bank account for me. And when we book jobs, Ben goes and puts all the deposits into my bank account for me. So the only other thing that I do besides meet with these guys every week is every 2 weeks I run payroll, which takes me about an hour, because I have a really simple system for that as well. And the other thing that I do is I field phone calls here and there throughout the week. So on busy weeks, that might be a few hours of phone calls. Not so busy weeks, like this time of year, I don't get a lot of phone calls. So what you need to do in order to set up a business like this is you need to create systems. The reason that this works is because we have systems for our sales reps to follow. So something that's really important to know is that our sales reps, the ones we hire every year, are people who have never done sales before in painting. We take people, usually like college students or young people who haven't ever done sales, and we bring them in and we run them through our marketing and training system and train them how to do it. And people are super effective. So just to give you an example, I had a young man contact me a few weeks back. He bought a course from me on how to start and run a painting business, and his name is Sean. So Sean's 27 years old. He lives in California, and for the last 7 years, he's been trying to start a business, and he's tried 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different businesses. I forget how many, but he's just failed at one after another. And he bought this course and he was emailing me and asking for help and getting questions. So I actually gave him a call and I said, hey man, let me help you be successful. So I set up 4 phone calls with Ishan. So they were an hour and a half phone call and I did 4 of them with him to teach him our sales process. And then we implemented the marketing system, so he started getting leads coming into him. The very first estimate he did, he booked for $2,700. He started the job 2 days later with one of the subcontractors he hired. 2 days after that, the job was complete and he made $1,000. And since then, I've been talking to him. He's just been updating me with how things are going and he continues to book work and close jobs. So the key here is having systems that work. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you, is how do you implement systems that just work for marketing so you have a constant flow of leads coming into your business, an effective sales process so you can turn those leads into sales, and then an effective production process where you can simply and easily produce those jobs to complete those clients. I could talk for days about painting, so there's a lot of depth in this, so I'm going to kind of take it one step at a time and try and give you little tips and everything as we go, and things that you can actionably implement into your business right away. So the first kind of homework assignment I have for you is I want you to go through and take a piece of paper and write down what are all the things that you do in your business. Like, what do you actually spend your time doing in your business? What I've found is many painters and painting companies, they spend all their time working in their business and they don't have an opportunity to work on it and actually create systems for their business to start to run itself. So there's a lot of things that these subcontractors do, my production manager does, Ben does, my sales reps do, that a lot of painters do themselves. So are you going to the paint store? Are you going and dropping by job sites? Are you doing estimates yourself? What is it that you're actually spending your time doing? So that's what I want you to start to look at, is what are you spending all your time doing? And then the second piece is who else could do those jobs for you so you don't have to? Because that's going to be really important as we move forward so that you actually have time to implement the things that we're going to be teaching. Because if you don't free up any time, most likely your business is going to stay about the same. For those of you who did go ahead and write down all the things that you spend time doing in your painting business, these are the 4 things that I identified that eat up a lot of time for painters. And these were things that used to eat up all of my time when I first got started. So, just to give you an idea, when I first started my painting business, and the very first thing I would do is I would wake up super early, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, get to the paint store, put in my order, and I'd be at the paint store till like 7:30. And then I'd go over to my first job site, because at this time I was running 2 crews, so I had 2 houses going at the same time. I go to the paint store, then I go to my first job site, and then I go to my second job site, and then by now it's like 9 or 9:30. I'd realize I need to get something at the paint store, so I'd go back to the paint store, pick up some more paint, then I'd come back to the job site and drop it off, then I'd jump over and check on my other job site, and maybe they needed help with something because they were behind, so maybe I'd help them do a little painting, maybe I'd clean out the sprayer for them, or I'd talk to the customer. And then I'd usually leave the job site, grab lunch, and go back to the paint store so I could pick up a couple test patches. Then in the afternoon, I had to go do a couple test patches for customers. And in the middle of that, I get a phone call from my painter, and they needed something else from the paint store. So I'd go back to the paint store, and then I'd go back to the job site. I'd show my customer what we had done for the day. And now it's 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I've just been running ragged all day. And that's really what my whole first year in the painting business looked like. As I was working with employees. So you can imagine, once I eliminated all 4 of these things from my schedule, it freed up a ton of time. So actually, test patches, I'm going to start with test patches and color samples. So by this I mean, we realized that this was something that was taking so much time in production. Like, once we got a new client, this was the most time-consuming thing preparing a job to paint. Sometimes we had to pick colors, we had to go to the customer's house, pick colors with them, we had to go to the paint store, get the test patches, go back, put them on the house. If they didn't like them, we went back to the paint store, then we went back to the house. Sometimes it would take 2 or 3 trips to get people to figure out their colors, and it just took too much time. So we made one really simple change. I went to my paint rep. I want to set up my account so that my customers can come in and they can buy quartz or test samples on my account so they can pick their colors. So that's what we did. So when we get a new client, all we do is we say, hey, Mr. Smith, so to pick your colors, all you have to do is go to the paint store, it's right down the road over here, and give them this code, and it's FHP2539. Give them that code, and they'll give you all the test courts that you need so you can actually put samples up on your house to pick your colors. And at first I was really hesitant to do it because I thought that was a big customer service thing. I thought people were gonna want me to do test samples. I thought that was important. And as it turned out, people don't care at all. Like, people are totally cool with picking their colors. And it has cut the amount of time we spend on production probably by 70%. I mean, this was a huge thing for me. So that's something you can do right now. So if you're currently spending time doing test samples or test patches and color samples for customers, write that down and call your paint rep today and get a code set up so your customers can do it themselves. The next thing is, we'll talk about is painting. So if you're actually doing painting right now, I would strongly urge you to just stop doing it. And I'm gonna show you why. Everyone pays their painters differently, but let's just assume that you pay your painters $15 per hour. And let's assume that you're better at painting than your painters are. Okay, so you pay your painters $15 an hour and you're a little bit faster than them. So every hour that you paint, you're actually saving yourself about $15 an hour. So you could say that when you go and paint, you make $15 per hour. Not bad, but as a business owner, I would like to make more than what my employees are making per hour. So if we look at the other activities you could do in your business, let's say instead of painting for 10 hours in a day, where you would make $150 painting, let's say you went and did 10 hours of sales and estimates. All right, so 10 hours of estimates. Let's say you only do 5 estimates and you only book one of them, and it's a $2,500 job, and you make $500 of profit on that job. So that means in 10 hours doing sales, you made yourself $500. So $50 an hour doing sales, or you made yourself only $15 an hour painting. And that's a really mild example. So for myself, when I do estimates, I close about 70% of my estimates. And my estimates take an hour and a half. So if I want to go and do 5 estimates, it'll take me about 7.5 hours, so call it 8 hours. I usually book about 3 of those jobs for about $3,000 each. That's $9,000, and I make just shy of $2,000 in 8 hours. So that's a lot more money than, the $150 I could make if I was painting. So if you're painting, I would strongly encourage you to just stop doing it and find more valuable things to do with your time. Job site visits in the paint store. So these are 2 big ones, which I don't think you can completely eliminate job site visits if you're doing a lot of them right now. That might take a little bit of time to get yourself to a point where you don't do any job site visits like I do. I only talked to 1 customer this year. Even my production manager, Paul, as I showed you in the first video, even he has only been to about 10 job sites this year out of about 250 clients or so. So you don't need to do job site visits, but I would really encourage you to limit your job site visits to 1 per day. And so if you're currently going to the job site multiple times per day, here's what you do. Go to the job site first thing in the morning and spend 15 to 30 minutes there and take a piece of paper and write out hour by hour what your painters should be doing, and make a copy of that for yourself, like snap a picture. And then instead of going back to the job site multiple times that day, just call your painters in the afternoon and just check in. And that's really all you need to do. And you should be able to only go to your job site every morning. And if you really have to babysit your painters so much that you have to go to the job site multiple times per day, then you probably should get some new painters, because you shouldn't need to babysit your employees that much. And in fact, you could even give them a small raise. Like, give them $1 an hour raise, so it costs you another $10 a day for you to not have to do that. That will free up your time so you can focus on more valuable activities. So make sure you only do 1 job site visit a day if you're doing multiple of these, and then just check in on the phone. The last one is paint store visits. I haven't been to the paint store in like 7 years. Just don't go to the paint store anymore. Give your guys a small raise and make sure every morning they go to the paint store on the way to the job site, and teach them to make sure that they buy everything they need for the entire day in the morning, so that they're also not making multiple trips to the paint store a day. So it's a small organizational thing to make this only 1 trip a day, and then it's a small thing to delegate to get your painters to do it for you. Based on everything that we've talked about, what I would really encourage you to do is, if you're spending time doing any of these 4 things, spend an hour today and make all this happen. Set up your code so your customers can get their own test patches. Stop doing painting and have a conversation with your foreman or the person you trust the most on your crew, and have them start going to the paint store in the morning, and have them start managing the job site throughout the day, so you can just check it out on the phone. And then you can free up your time so you can start to focus on the more valuable activities that we're going to talk about when we get into marketing and sales. Because that's where you're going to make all of your money in this business, is not in painting. It's in marketing and sales. And it's easy to do once you learn, the system that I'm going to teach you. So now that you've got this free time, you want to spend your new free time doing the things that are most valuable for your business, which is marketing and sales. What's really great about marketing is there's a lot of ways to set up marketing so that it's very automatic. When you spend all your time focusing on sales, that's when you're going to make the most money. But also, once you're spending so much time on sales that you're actually getting really busy just doing sales, that's when you have an opportunity to start to hire other people to do sales for you. Once you do get good at sales, marketing is incredibly easy, because the whole key to marketing is your return on investment. So what I mean by that is, if you spend $1,000 on marketing, so a dollar spent is $1,000, and you generate $10,000 in revenue, that would be 10% return on 10%, not return on investment, but 10% is how much you spent on marketing. So I would really be focused on 10% or less. In my business, our marketing expense is actually about 3 to 5%, but that's because we're really good at sales. When you're testing out, we're going to get into these different forms of marketing, and when you're trying to figure out how to market your business, you just got to test things. So just try things out. You got to be willing to spend a little bit of money to see if something's going to play out for you. I'm going to attempt to save you some time and money by letting you know what things haven't really worked for me in the past, and things that you can try out right away to start getting more leads. So again, the key to marketing is to test, because there's a lot of different ways to do it. You want to test it, and what you're testing for is what % of revenue do you spend on marketing. And as long as you're spending 10% or less to get jobs, then I would continue that marketing. So there's 3 forms of marketing that I kind of look at. One is direct. So direct is exactly how it sounds. It's very direct. In fact, this is how I've generated probably 90% of my business over the last several years. And what we do is we go door to door. So I'm not going to get into a lot of details about that right now, but what's really great about going door to door is I'm the first person there. So I'm always the first person to take a shot at the job. A lot of times I catch people before they decide to start getting estimates, so there's a little bit less competition. But also what I like most is that I'm in control of the number of leads I get, because if I want to get 10 more leads, I just have to go knock on more doors, or I need to hire more people to go knock on more doors. So basically all we do for this, and I'll get into more depth in all of these things in another video, but all I do is I walk up to a house that needs painting in my target neighborhood, I knock on the door and I say, "Hey, how's it going?" I hand them a flyer. So, "Hey, how's it going? I'm Eric, I'm with Foothills Painting. I noticed you have some peeling paint up here, so I just want to give you a free estimate." And they say, "Okay." And I say, "Okay, what's your name? What's your number? What's your address? What are you guys thinking about painting this year? Are you looking to change the colors? And are you looking to do the whole house or just certain areas? Okay, great. I'll give you a call in the next day or so to schedule time for an estimate." And this past year, we were getting about 80 to 100 leads a week just from door to door. So this is a really great way to generate business. But it does take a certain level of skill and training to be able to train people to do that effectively, which I'm going to get into later. The next thing is passive. So passive marketing is like my least favorite kind of marketing. I absolutely hate passive marketing. Passive marketing would be like directory listings. So I'm sure many of you have tried this at one point or another. There's tons of companies out there that are trying to do this, and they do it a lot of different ways. So one is being listed in the yellow pages, being listed on other directories. There's also ones that build websites for you. So they'll build you a website and tell you that you're gonna start getting all these phone calls from your website. Quite frankly, you spend a bunch of money up front and hope you're gonna get leads later. That's what passive marketing is. And that's why I hate it. There's no guarantee of the number of leads I'm gonna get. And frankly, all the passive marketing I've ever tried has been pretty ineffective. And I'm not saying it's not gonna work. It won't work for, everybody, or it won't work for anybody. I'm sure this does work, but I would not start here for a couple reasons. One is because you have to pay money up front and you might get leads later. You just don't know. The other reason is it might take a while. It might take a while before you start getting those leads, and I don't want you to go and spend money and take a long time to get that money back. So I wouldn't recommend starting with passive marketing. I just wouldn't recommend it. But some places you can look is like Yellow Pages directories, Yodel.com, 99calls.com. Those are the companies that build a website. But again, here's the third reason I would not do passive marketing is anytime you get listed on one of these other people's websites, if a customer goes online and searches for you, so they go on there and they search for my company's Foothills Painting. So if I'm on all these directories, someone goes online and wants to hire me and they type in Foothills Painting, all these other companies that I'm listed on, they're such bigger websites that they rank higher than my website does. So what ends up happening is they end up stealing my customers and selling my customers to me. So I really don't recommend doing that or using any service where they want you to build a profile. Because when you build a profile, essentially you're helping them market their website better and they'll end up stealing business from you, which is super frustrating. So that's direct, that's passive. And by the way, just to take a step back, direct marketing, when we do door-to-door, I pay my employees per lead. So I don't pay them per hour, I pay them per lead. So that I'm not paying, $100 to someone to not get me any leads. I pay $100 for 10 leads. And so anyways, so I really like the idea of trading money for a lead, not trading money for something that might get me leads. So that takes me to the third thing, and this is the other way that I market my business is from lead buying. I think lead buying is great because there's a lot of companies out there that do this, and what they do is essentially they find customers who want painting estimates, and you can pay these companies for those customers. So they range in price and they range in lead quality, so you really got to test them all out. I'll actually name a number of these companies, but this is actually a really outstanding way if you're trying to get started or you're just trying to really grow your marketing. This is such an amazing way to do it because you're only going to pay when you get leads. There's about 6 companies that you could look into. Some of them are better than others. There's one that I recommend the most, and that's painterchoice.com. Painterchoice.com tends to have better lead quality, it's less expensive, and they don't sell the leads to as many companies. Some of the other companies that you can look into as well is Home Advisor, so that's homeadvisor.com, thumbtack.com, craftjack.com, angieslist.com, Networks, that's networx.com. Those are, I think, the other big ones that I'm pretty familiar with. Now, I wouldn't recommend starting with some of the others because, like I said in my experience, the quality of leads has been best here. The most important thing for you when you're buying leads is that you have a good sales process. Because if you don't have a good sales process and you only get you only win 1 out of 10 bids, then you're just going to spend too much money. And it's not going to fall inside of this 10%. But if you have a good sales process, you will be able to close these leads. So I mentioned in a previous video, Ashan, and Ashan is a guy I helped start a painting business just recently, and I trained him on sales over 4 phone calls that were an hour and a half each. I trained him on sales, and then he signed up and he started getting leads from painterchoice.com. The first day he signed up, he got his first lead. He set up the estimate using the script I gave him. He went out there on Sunday and booked the very first job, the very first estimate he ever did for $2,700. 2 weeks after that, or a week after that, he booked another job where he was the highest price. Okay, so if you have a good sales process, this will work. And again, we're gonna come back to sales processes later. Now, if you can get success using painterchoice.com, then I would recommend trying the others out. And that's what Ashan is doing right now. He's trying Home Advisor, he's trying Thumbtack, he's trying CraftJack and Networks, and he's trying all these other things. He's trying door-to-door. And he's kind of just tracking it all and seeing what's gonna work. Just to kind of give you an idea of what's possible, let's say you got your sales process down really well, and let's say you didn't want to do door-to-door, you didn't want to do passive, you just wanted to do lead buying, which frankly is one of the easiest ways to get leads. If you signed up with painterchoice.com, Home Advisor, Thumbtack, Networks, CraftJack, and if all of those actually were profitable for you, and they all fell in under the 10% goal, you could probably get about 20 to 30 leads per week that are customers who are looking to get painting done, and those leads just get emailed to you or text message to you. I know with painterchoice.com, you'll get a text message and an email the second somebody requests an estimate. So you can just call them right away, and a lot of times they're still on the website looking at stuff about painting. These are a few different ways you can start with marketing. I would really encourage you to be very, very diligent about tracking everything, because that's really all that matters. Once you find out what works for your business, then it's just a matter of duplicating it as many times over as you can. So when I went door to door and I realized I can get a lead an hour, then it was just a matter of getting 20 people out there knocking on doors instead of just me. Once I knew I could get leads with Painter Choice in Fort Collins, I could get leads with Painter Choice all across Colorado, and then I start trying the other ones. And those are the two things that have worked for me. I want to encourage you to try those things out, but do something, track it, and see what works. But first, make sure you got a good sales process. That's what we're going to be going into next. So before we get into sales, I gotta first tell you that first and foremost, you gotta understand that most people suck at sales, especially people in the painting business. Some of the things I've seen, it's just a joke. I've seen people put, a bid on the back of a business card. Literally, I went to an estimate and she had my contract there, and I asked her what the other estimate was, and she grabbed a business card, turned it around, and it said $1,700 on it. And he was much lower than me, but I got the job because there's no contract there. Like, that's kind of shady. I've also seen people write up a bid and just drop it off. Like, literally put it in a mailbox or leave it on the doorstep and hope they call back to book. I've also seen people go and do an estimate. They meet with a customer and they do a great job and the person likes them. And then they say they'll email the estimate later, and it takes them a week or sometimes 2 weeks to email the estimate to the customer. And it's just insane, because I'll be in communication with the customer and they say, we're waiting on this one other estimate. And I'm like, okay, well, when are you expecting it? Well, he said he'd get it to me by tomorrow. I'm like, oh, what's the holdup? Why is he waiting until tomorrow? I don't know. Tomorrow comes, I call back, have you heard from him? No, he still hasn't sent it over. 2 weeks later, still hasn't sent it. Finally, they're like, look, we're just gonna go with you. Because people suck. They're just not good at sales. They're not professional. And, when people are hiring someone for several $1,000s to paint their home, which is their biggest asset, so there's a really simple sales process that I would encourage you to use, just to separate yourself. And you could set this up in just an afternoon. So my goal for this video is just to give you something that you could change right now about your sales and have your sales improve. All the details behind this outline I'm going to run you through, all the scripts and everything, that's going to be in the course. So I'm not going to get into the actual what to say, but just the general process. And you'll be able to improve your sales just from following something like this. So a lead comes in, right? So you get a lead, whether it's from door to door, or it's a referral, or buying leads. But either way, you get a lead. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do an initial call. So the initial call, first of all, you want to do it right away. Don't wait. You'll separate yourself from other companies just by calling people back quickly. Okay, I talked to a woman a couple months ago, and when she finally talked to me, she said she had called 35 painting companies that day and wasn't able to set up an estimate. 35 companies. People are trying not to get business. People are banging on the door, they want to get an estimate from you, and people are not calling them back right away. It's unbelievable how few people actually go after sales. So just call them right away. Just that will make a difference. And when you do the phone call, just a really quick, kind of basic script of how I do it is I just start with, hey, this is Eric, with Foothills Painting. You were looking to get an estimate. Cool. Do you have a couple minutes? Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking to get done? I have a short chat with them about what they're planning to do and when they'd like to get the work done. And I say, okay, cool. Let me tell you how I do my estimates. So I schedule them for about an hour and a half. And first, I'd like to just meet with you and ask some questions to find out exactly what you need and what you want and what you guys are looking to get done. And then most importantly, I want to spend 15 minutes or so walking around the house with you so we can really address the problem areas on your house. And I can let you know what I recommend for those things. And I can also write up a bunch of different options for you so you guys have some things to pick from. Once we've done that, I'm going to go ahead and walk around the house myself. And I'm going to come up with some measurements and come up with the different options that we talked about. Once I've gotten that all written up, I'm going to come back inside and I'll run you through everything that we came up with, answer any other questions you have. Hopefully we can find something that works for you. We'll just kind of see where you want to go from there. Does that sound good? They say yes, I say cool, what's your schedule look like, and we schedule a time. You want to be detailed to make sure that they're going to be there. And most importantly, when you're setting up the estimate, it's really, really, really important that they know that they're going to be walking around the house with you. Because this is really where you're going to separate yourself from everybody else, is in the details and the options. That's where you're going to build all your value. That's when you're going to build trust and comfort with the customer, that you know what you're talking about. That's where you're going to be able to work up different options that fit what their needs and wants are. So it's really important that you set up the estimate properly, that you're actually going to be meeting with the customer, not giving them what I call a stock estimate. When you give people stock estimates, what's likely going to happen is they just want to get more estimates. The reason I close 70% of my estimates is because I don't give a stock estimate. I give a very custom estimate so that people are getting exactly what they need and want from me. And as long as the price is fair, they just book with me because I got them exactly what they need and want. And the only way to do that is by walking around the house with them. Okay, so now you've set up the estimate. All right, so you have time scheduled. So the next part is actually doing the estimate. Before I get into kind of this process, which I briefly outlined already, but before I get into all the details about it, there's one really important thing to understand about sales. When you care more about your customer than you care about you making the sale, you will be better than everybody else. So when you care more about taking care of the customer than you care about making the sale, you'll sell more than anybody else. And it's a challenging thing to do because you really do have to give up caring about making the sale. And if you truly put the customer's needs and wants first, they'll be able to tell, and it'll build so much trust with you that you'll end up getting the job just because they trust you the most. So a quick example of that, this was only about 3 weeks ago. I did an estimate for a couple, and I was their second estimate. So they had already gotten an estimate from a friend. They worked at a school together. So they had already gotten an estimate from Bill, and Bill's estimate was $3,400 plus the fence for $300. So it was a $3,700 job. And then my quote was $4,100, and I also said I would do the fence for $300. So that's $4,400, $3,700. So my quote was $700 more, and they actually had a history with this guy. So I gave him the estimate. They called me a couple days later, and Jeff says, Jeff's my customer, he says, so Eric, we're thinking about waiting till next year to do this. We're comparing the estimates, and we were wondering how much more you would charge us to wait until the spring to do this. And you know, what I used to do, I would probably pressure the customer and say, well, it's going to cost a lot more if you wait, and and I would try and kind of manipulate them to want to go ahead and just do it now so I can get the job. And I've learned that that is not the most effective way to do sales. And so I was just honest with him, and I said, Jeff, you know, honestly, I think their house will probably be okay if you wait till the spring. And if you call me up, like if you guys decide to wait and you call me up in the spring and you want me to do the job, you know, I'll probably just give you the same price. Like I don't think really much is going to change. So it's really up to you guys. And it was really hard for me to say that because I really wanted his business. And I even told him that. I said, Jeff, it's hard for me to say that because I really do want your business, but you know, honestly, if you wait, it's not going to be a problem. And 2 days later, he called me back and he said, hey, we've talked about it. We want to go with you and we want to do it this year. And you know, that's one example that happens all the time to me. You know, where I'm the higher bid and I'm totally cool with people and I don't pressure them. I don't pressure sale. I offer discounts, but I don't pressure people with them. And that's just an example of taking care of the customer, putting their needs and wants first before mine. You know, because when you really take care of people and you really serve people and they trust you, they'll go with you. So that's the most important thing for you to understand when you're going out and meeting with them, is put them first, take care of them. And the best way to do that is ask questions to find out what do they need and what do they want. Are they on a budget? If they're on a budget, give them options to save money. If there's areas that don't need to be painted, tell them that. You know, if they are someone who they're gonna die in this house and they want a paint job that's bulletproof that's gonna last forever, okay, well, then give them that and start recommending things for that. But the most important thing is that you start with questions to find out really what do they need, what do they want, what's important to them. That's the first thing you gotta do when you get to the estimate. The next thing you gotta do is when you walk around the house. So then you're gonna say, okay, all right, Mr. Customer, so you know, let's just go take a look at the house. You know, you mind walking around with me? And they say, okay, cool. So then I go outside and I say, cool, so do you have any concerns? What have you noticed? And you know, they point out peeling here, cracking here. And then I just start talking to them about it. And I say, okay, so here's what's going on with peeling. This is why it happens, and this is what's gonna happen, and this is what I recommend taking, these are the procedures I recommend doing to take care of it. Is that something you'd like me to do? And basically my job on the walk around is to be extremely detailed looking at their house. So I address every single concern on the house, informing them, of exactly what's going on in their house and what could happen, and letting them know what I recommend doing for those things and, why I recommend them. And then I just ask them, do you want us to do that? Because it's really important that they choose. You don't just say, hey, we're gonna scrape, sand, and prime this, cool. You wanna actually say, I recommend scraping, sanding, and priming these peeling areas. Is that something you would like us to do? They say yes, and they actually have the experience of customizing the job for themselves. I also would encourage you to take, be really detailed, as I said, give them different options. So if they're uncertain, offer it as an option. I just try to give as many options as I can so people can kind of pick and choose. The other thing I would always take notes and write things down as I go around the house with them, because that makes a real difference when you go into the end of the estimate and there's things that you talked about with them that they already forgot about, but you didn't because you wrote it down and it's on the contract. And when you are more on top of it than they are, that builds even more trust. So you finish walking around with the customer, and at the end of walking around the house, I like to just kind of wrap everything up like, okay, cool, so we're gonna use this paint, we're gonna do this prep work, and I'm gonna give you this option for the whole house, this option for the trim, an option for the deck separate, and we'll also give you an option for that room inside. Is that everything we talked about? Okay, cool, give me 20 minutes, and I'm gonna go get this written up for you. So then I go outside and I write up my whole estimate. I've got a nice, contract that I use, and I'll include that with the whole sales course, so that you've got all the materials that you need to look like a professional. Then you write out your contract, make sure it looks neat and it's clean and it's detailed. And then I go back in the house and I sit down with them and I say, okay, cool, let me run you through this. I run them through everything. I say, cool, did I get everything? All right. Well, here's this price, here's this price, here's this price. So, what do you guys want to do from here? What do you think? Or, and I just kind of talk to them about it. And we kind of go from there, and if they want a couple days to think about it, I give them a couple days to think about it. And if they want to get another estimate, I just make sure that I got everything that they want and need, that they're happy with me, and they think the price is fair. And as long as I met all those things, if they want to get a couple other estimates, I might ask them why, but I'm gonna support people in doing what they need to do to figure out what they want, and people are gonna appreciate that. But it is important that you don't just get blown out the house. So we'll get into a lot more details about closing and about what you need to do to make sure that you close those jobs down and they don't slip through your fingers. So we'll get into the details about closing scripts and call scripts and selling cycles and all kinds of little details that I could talk to you about for hours. But for now, implement this system, set up good detailed estimates, take care of people before you take care of yourself, and follow this basic process, and you will look like a more professional, reliable, detailed contractor than 90% of the people out there. We've already gotten the lead from our marketing efforts. We've already made the sale from doing a really good sales process, and now we've got a client who's given us a deposit and we need to actually get their house painted. This part of the whole business is where most painters really fall short. And even a lot of the people I know who run really good companies, this is really the place where people end up spending most of their time. This is usually the biggest bottleneck to people growing their business is production, because it can take up a whole lot of your time. If you don't set up a really good system around production, which we're going to talk about systems also in the next couple videos, but if you don't set up a really good system for your production, it can be an overwhelming amount of work. It'll take a good crew with 2 to 3 guys working on it, anywhere from 3 to 4 days to finish a job. So you can imagine if you're running a $500,000, to $1 million company, you can have quite a few people working on job sites all at once, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with production if you don't set up a really nice, elegant system like I'm going to show you. So there's 2 ways that you can kind of go about this. So the first way is you can hire employees. How this is going to work is just posting ads places. People submit their resume to you looking for work, but mostly it's posted on Craigslist or other employment services to find people who are looking for painting jobs. I guess the upside to this is you can have a lot more control or perceived control over your production. I actually don't think you have as much control when you manage employees, but some people think that if you have employees, you have more control over your job site and you can make sure things go smoothly. So anyways, you can hire employees. The downside to hiring employees is it's a lot of work, honestly. It's a lot of work to hire employees, it's a lot of work to train employees, it's a lot of work to manage employees, and then it's a lot of money to pay employees because of payroll taxes, which are a whole lot of fun. And it's just expensive. Employees are expensive because they make a lot of mistakes, and if they go way over budget on a house, you still have to pay them. Like it's kind of a difficult situation. So we don't want to do that. I would strongly urge you not to hire employees to produce your jobs. What we prefer here is to subcontract. Sorry, that's kind of small. Subcontract. So what subcontracting is basically there's a ton of painting companies out there. Okay, but there's a lot of painting companies that all they do is paint. They don't do marketing and they don't do sales, but they'll paint houses for half of what customers pay. So, for example, when you're doing sales, once in a while you'll go into an estimate. Your competition will be like $1,500 for the price of the job, and your price is like $2,800 or $3,200. So you get way undercut. Those are the people that we want to hire to do the painting for us. Because we can still sell jobs for $3,000 because that's a competitive rate for homeowners with other companies, just like the company we're setting up. So a lot of the big, larger companies are going to have higher prices, and that's what makes them bigger and more reputable, and that's how you know about them. But there's a ton of companies out there that charge really low prices, but you never hear about them because they don't market, they don't sell, they just paint. You know, a lot of times they have just a white van with no markings on it, and literally their business model is to subcontract from other companies. So how that works, basically I post ads just like I do for hiring paint employees, but I'm hiring subcontractors. So I actually post ads to find subcontractors, and I actually pay them just 50% of the job. So when we sell a job for $3,000, I pay my subcontractor $1,500 to do that job. And that covers all the labor, all the materials, and pays them. You know, because a lot of times these are business owners and they run anywhere from just them and one person to maybe even running 3 or 4 crews, depending on the different subcontractor. So I pay them 50%, which frankly is probably less than you'll end up spending over here, because the other downside to doing employees is that not only do you spend probably 35% paying your employees and another couple percent paying payroll taxes, and then you also are going to have to pay for all the materials on the job, which is going to be anywhere from like 10 to 17% depending on the job. So when you're hiring employees, the biggest downside I think is that you have a ton more costs to manage, you know, because you have to manage their hourly rate times how many hours they work, plus any payroll taxes, plus you got to manage the materials on the job. It's a lot of expenses to manage. Versus subcontracting, I have one expense to manage. It's 50%. That's it. Actually, I know some people who went the employee route, and in my experience, this has actually been more profitable and it's been easier. So what's really nice about this is, so once we agree on the job, so we've hired a subcontractor, we agreed on a price of a job to do for $1,500. So all we do is we call the customer and we make sure that they have their colors picked out and their date scheduled. And as soon as the job is ready, we schedule a start date with the customer. We say, okay, we're going to start next Tuesday. And then on Monday, I meet with the subcontractor. I give them a folder with all of the information about the job. They go over to the house on Tuesday. They start the job. They finish the job. They collect the final check for me. And then they go to my bank. They deposit the check into my bank account for me. And then they come and pick up their check from us. So literally, the only thing that we're actually involved with when we subcontract is setting up the job, which means picking colors, getting approval from homeowners associations, if you have those around the country, and really just preparing the customer and the scheduling the start date. The only other thing we have to do is hire and maintain our subcontractors. So I want to talk just really briefly about hiring and maintaining subcontractors, because it's actually pretty easy to do. The first thing that I want to point to with hiring and maintaining subcontractors is that there's a ton of them out there, and there's not a ton of good ones, so you are going to have to sift through quite a bit of people. So I usually post an ad on Craigslist, just saying, hey, we're a growing company, and we're looking for subcontractors, for people to subcontract to. If you're interested and you have insurance, please contact us here. I'll get about 50 or 60 responses sometimes from an ad like that, and when I get 50 or 60 responses, I'll probably delete about 80% of them. just based on the response. Because what's important to me in hiring a subcontractor is someone who has good communication skills and is professional. Because a lot of times the way people respond to an ad is also going to be kind of the way that they operate their business. So we always want to make sure to really sift through and find the right people. Once I've sifted down to about those 10 contractors that I'm actually interested in meeting with, I'll set up meetings and I'll just go and meet with them and talk to them and, you know, use my best judgment really, whether or not I think that they'd be someone I'd like to work with. And then on the very first job, I'll probably hand off the folder to them and actually drop into the job site a couple times just to see how it's going, because I like to kind of keep a close watch on the first couple jobs that a subcontractor does just to make sure they're doing really good work. And once they've done one job, then I give them another, and then another, and then another, and you know, I'll keep kind of loading them up with work more and more over time as long as they're doing a really great job. So, you know, in my business now, we're in 3 years now. We have 7 really good subcontractors, and between those 7 subcontractors, we can produce about $1 million in business. So we basically have seven people down here who are all doing all of the production stuff for us, and they're very happy to do so. And why they're very happy to do so is for 2 reasons. And this speaks towards maintaining subcontractors. The first reason that they're totally happy working with us is because we pay them fair. So, you know, we're giving them 50%, but we're pricing the job properly to make sure that 50% is a good amount for them to actually be making to make money. So when my subcontractors come to me and say, hey, I need an extra $150 on this job, or I need an extra $200 on this job, a lot of the times I'll end up giving it to them if I believe the job is underbid. And so that's something you'll kind of have to learn as you go, is like, what is the right price point? Because you also want to be sure just not to be taken advantage of by your subcontractors. But I do take care of them and I pay them fairly. And then the second thing, and this is huge, is I pay them right away. So a lot of companies will wait a week or 2 weeks or something to cut all their checks for payroll. I literally, like, the second a subcontractor finishes the job, they can bring me the check and I'll swap them checks immediately. So they can get paid the day they finish the job, which is incredibly important to subcontractors. So that's really what I would have to say about how to actually manage your production. And we're going to get into how to start to create these systems in the next couple videos. So next video I'm going to talk to you really about creating systems and how important that is for your business and how much of a difference it makes in making your business easy to run. And then we'll also be diving into specifically, you know, what does it really look like as far as our sales system and our production system. Over the next couple videos, we'll start to get into a little bit more details about that. So, see you soon.